All right, we're back. So it's a quick little intermission there, and yeah, we're back into attachment styles. So this is kind of a nice, it's kind of a classic one to go through. One of the things I want to just kind of preface it is that attachment theory is a theory, right? It's just a way that some kind of researchers and psychologists have kind of come up with possibilities for reasons for behavior, right? In the way that kind of actions are occurring. So it may not always ring true with people, but it's just something to kind of think about in the end, too. So we'll explore this and think about again if this may apply to you. So let's pull up the worksheet here. And there we are. So get to it. So we have attachment theory here, and let's start with just kind of the definition of what is attachment. So essentially, it's an emotional bond that's formed between objects in order to establish a sense of security and safety, right? You can think of this related to a lot of time we may think of people, but also it can be objects, even just kind of experiences, right? Especially, kind of the classic millennial thing right now is the attachment to nostalgia, right? And through that, it makes sense, right? When you see this definition of the sense of security and safety, because, with that nostalgia there, those were kind of happier times. Those were easier times. Those were simpler times compared to kind of the nuances of the world that we're in today. Things just made much more sense back then. So even outside of people, objects, it could just be kind of times and events and things, right? Um, so the theory began in 1950s with the work of psychiatrist Bowlby and psychologist Mary Ainsworth. Belief that the mother-child or caregiver bond is primary force during infant development explains how initial interactions leads to how we respond and react with others. So the theory is that this relationship between the infants and the caregivers is responsible for shaping future relationships and bringing awareness to our feelings and abilities to calm or regulate ourselves and ability to manage difficult situations. So obviously kind of that comment there about how it develops with others, such as siblings, extended family, teachers, friends, coworkers, lovers, and pets, all possible, right? So the goal is we want to get to be able to have these healthy, effective relationships. Well, what do they look like? So we're able to use stress, balance kind of internal regulation, using kind of that effective verbal, nonverbal communication, getting our needs met, resolving conflict, and acknowledging the truth of the other's viewpoint without just kind of taking it personal or whatever that is. Even if there is that conflict there, it's healthy discussions, right? We're able to resolve conflict and forgiving and letting go of these particular emotions. And the last thing here, being able to kind of set those healthy limits and boundaries. So, what can cause an insecure attachment? Well, sure, some of us may know physical neglect, emotional, verbal, sexual abuse, separation, inconsistency, frequent transitions, environmental changes. A lot of these things can really have a huge impact. Again, kind of think about your life, your experience, and does this apply? Is there anything that you feel has had an impact on this, right? Um, Getting into kind of the different styles of attachment, we look at the five here that I kind of listed in a possibility for your kind of relationships. We have secure, which we just kind of talked about. Those are those healthy relationships. We have the avoidant, where it feels it's ineffective to rely on others and increase dependence on self. There's the ambivalent, due to inconsistencies, may feel unsure about relationships with others. Disorganized, the fear of relationships builds over time, difficulties trusting and managing relationships. And the earned secure, trust and security as relationships develop once able to understand the effects of past experiences. So let's look at this little chart down here about the attachment styles that we kind of reviewed here and what they may look like. So the secure, like you said, And I'll kind of blow this up a little bit. Um, with kind of the caregiver in that, we're having kind of that consistent awareness and attentive to the child's need, in tune with the child's emotions. All that is crucial for that aspect here. Being able to explore the childhood, maybe the child may be able to explore and independent from the caregiver, is critical with that. So what this may happen through kind of these adult characteristics, child may feel safe, be able to have these connections with others, deal with stressful situations, and balance those positive and negative emotions, and understand life purpose. An example for like this is being able to relatively easy for me to become emotionally close to others. All right, so that's the one that we're all well aware of. The other ones here are related to the insecure, avoidant, and the ambivalent sections. So for the avoidant, for the insecure attachment, this and not fully involved may purposely be neglectful, seems preoccupied, not dismissive, due to the fact that this individual may view kind of these relationships strangers from a distance, until there's, may take time for this to kind of build these relationships. In adults, they may feel physically or emotionally distant in the relationships, may continue to long for attachment connection. That's what I was waiting for. Apologize. While having difficulty allowing self to experience it. I'm comfortable without close emotional relationships. I prefer not to depend on others. So this is where, again, maybe an individual has been let down. They relied on others, and it was a very traumatic experience. And now there's just no trust in these particular relationships. So there's more that avoidant attachment style, right? Um, so next, attachment is related to the ambivalent. Inconsistent may be perceived as controlling while also unavailable, dismissive. Due to fearful or anxious with others due to not knowing what to expect from them. May have difficulty identifying and setting boundaries with others due to wanting connections while being fearful of abandonment or rejections. That can be shown in adult characteristics. In some examples, I'm comfortable being without close relationships, but sometimes worry that others will reject me. So this ambivalent attachment style can be related to a very kind of, I would say, toxic or tumultuous household. If this kind of reminds me of if a parent or guardian or whoever may be, let's say, utilizing alcohol, right? There's just a kind of alcoholism that's kind of occurring, that's going on, and there's that physical and verbal abuse in that household that may have occurred. So you don't really know how to view the situation. You don't know how to be fearful or anxious because you don't know what to expect. It's unpredictable. So you might be on guard, you might be dismissive, you might be controlling because you want to make sure that at the end of the day you want to be safe, right? Next one here, disorganized. So ignored or didn't observe child's needs, behavior identified as threatening, traumatizing. And the childhood characteristics for this, including sense of fear, feel inconsistent or unstable, may long for comfort while feeling unsafe or unsure of who to rely on, and may struggle to obtain and maintain relationships that have difficulty establishing healthy adult connections with others. For examples, I'm comfortable getting close to others. I want relationships, but find it difficult to others. So this is kind of related to the ambivalent, but it's more so the insecure, anxious, related to the disorganized. The disorganized is more so of just the difficulty in finding the trust because there has been those relationships that have been just not consistent. Whereas the insecure, anxious, ambivalent is more so that there's related to rejection, where maybe there was on the limb that they had built these relationships and maybe the rug was pulled out and now there's this anxiousness associated with it, right? So in terms of kind of the two, the insecure, or the three, insecure, avoidant, ambivalent, disorganized, let's say that the insecure, the two there relationships may have occurred, but then there may have been a traumatic event that kind of upended the view of that relationship because they realized that they did have that particular attachment, but there's also that risk and possibility that it could disappear, and that's where the avoiding comes in, and that's where the ambivalence comes in. Disorganized is when there's just pure neglect going on that has happened, where the child's needs are never occurring. So this relates to, again, kind of trust, where at the end of the day, I was never taken care of. So how could I trust you? That's going to be met, right? And the last one here, a lot of it is where some of us that may have gone through this trauma may want to get to that Aaron secure. Um, we're not going to be fully secure. It's not going to be able to get there, but it needs to take time for us to do that, right? So knowing that you've had these patterns or have these difficulties here, you can get to the point where that can be in a secure attachment, right? Knowing that you can connect with others and engaging satisfying relationship now that you understand how your early kind of experiences have impacted you. So again, looking at these five kind of attachment styles is a great way to kind of reflect on if you feel they resonate with you. And the more that you kind of uh, see, like, hey, is there any that may apply? It may kind of answer some questions, especially as we are kind of, if you feel you're trying to kind of understand yourself and your relationships with others, if there is difficulties that may be occurring, may be related to attachment. So, take a look at that to see if that is something that is having an impact. Um, but yeah, that's all I got here for you all tonight. The next stream is going to be related to hopefully finishing Gris, and then I picked up a few other mental health games that I'm hoping to try just to kind of explore and to kind of break down. So we'll see where that will take us. But for those that joined, thank you so much. We're back at it. I know it was trying to get on the horse again is pretty hard, but I think we'll be okay. So our next topics here will be discussed next week, and the next stream will be related to hopefully finishing Gris this week. If not, we'll check in next week. But yeah, thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening. Take care.